The young ladies attend the grand event. The morning of the long-awaited dinner at Aunt Louisa's house had arrived. It was a bright, sunny day, its gentle warmth waking Eva and Zanina from their sleep. They smiled at the sight of the golden sunlight streaming through their windows, welcoming its embrace with delight. Rising from their beds in high spirits, they nevertheless refrained from sharing their excitement about the evening's grand occasion. They attended to their morning duties as expected, following their daily routines diligently. By midday, the secrets they had kept were ready to be revealed, though only within the privacy of their room. Not a word was spoken until they were certain that no one could overhear them. "Someone's coming up the stairs," Eva whispered. "Let's wait," Zanina replied cautiously. A knock at the door interrupted their hushed conversation. When Zanina opened it, she found their mother standing there holding a cake in her hands. "I made this for you to take to Aunt Louisa as a token of appreciation for her kind invitation," she said warmly. Zanina smiled and, in a confidential tone, replied, "Thank you for your effort, Mother, but we would prefer not to be disturbed right now." "As you wish," Sarah responded with a playful smile before leaving, careful not to linger too long and risk disrupting the excitement of her daughters. The two sisters remained in their room until they had dressed in their finest gowns and styled their hair in the most elegant fashion. Meanwhile, Hawk and Sarah sat in the parlor, sipping their tea in silence. The moment was only broken when their daughters finally came down the staircase, ready to inform their mother that the hour had struck. 6:30 had arrived. "You look absolutely beautiful," their mother observed proudly before turning to Hawk and saying, "What do you think of our daughters, Hawk? No one informed me why they are dressed in their finest gowns." "Hawk, I explained the reasons to you earlier, don't you remember?" "I remember nothing." He stood up angrily and retreated to his room, leaving his daughters disheartened by his reaction. Sarah, however, tried to console them in her own way. "He has endured many hardships in his life. Don't be too hard on him. His mind is troubled by his own thoughts," and she trailed off, realizing she was once again making excuses for the man who had hurt her the most. The realization struck her. Perhaps she still loved him. Determined, she went upstairs to lock his door, knowing she would be accompanying her daughters to Aunt Louisa's house, and fearing that he might leave the house in her absence. She opened the door cautiously and, seeing Hawk lying down, decided against locking it. Instead, she carefully closed the door and made her way back downstairs. A few minutes later, Sarah, Zanina, and Eva had already climbed into the carriage, ready to depart. Just as they were about to leave, they suddenly remembered they had left Aunt Louisa's cake in the kitchen. Eva quickly dashed back inside, grabbed the cake, and rushed out again, not wanting to delay their journey. Once she was back in the carriage, they set off for their destination, Aunt Louisa's house. Though it was not yet 7 o'clock, they arrived early at the warmly lit residence. "I'll leave you here now," Sarah said, "but I would like you to return home with James, Aunt Louisa's nephew, before midnight. We'll try to be back by 11 so you won't worry." "All right, Mother," Zanina reassured her. Satisfied, Sarah kissed her daughters and helped them step down from the carriage. She then turned back towards their home, while the young ladies approached the unfamiliar residence of their aunt and her mysterious nephew. Hesitantly, they knocked on the door. Almost immediately, a housemaid answered, greeting them warmly and accepting the cake with delight. The house was grand, filled with aristocratic furniture and paintings. The young ladies quickly noticed that they were not the first to arrive. Aunt Louisa's guests had already gathered before them. Most appeared to be of English aristocratic descent, and they had already found ways to entertain themselves for the evening. Some sipped their drinks while enjoying the sweet melodies played by the musicians. Others danced, flirted with charming young ladies, or engaged in lively discussions filled with laughter. However, Aunt Louisa was nowhere to be seen. Eva, feeling too shy to engage in any of the activities, simply accepted a drink that was offered to her and waited patiently for her aunt to appear. Meanwhile, Zanina seized the opportunity to dance. As she twirled across the room, Her gaze fell upon a young woman laughing and drinking alongside a group of men and women. A strange feeling of familiarity washed over her. She was certain she had seen this woman before. When their eyes met, Zanina felt a rush of embarrassment and inwardly scolded herself for staring so intensely. She quickly averted her gaze, but from the corner of her eye she noticed the woman heading in her direction. Zanina's heart pounded as she assumed the worst, that the woman had taken offense and was now approaching to demand an explanation for her improper stare. Yet, instead of fear, Zanina squared her shoulders and met her gaze once more, just as the woman reached out her hand toward her. "I suppose you must be Louisa's niece," the woman said. "I'm sorry, what?" Zanina asked, confused. "You and your sister? I don't recall ever seeing you at Louisa's house before. You are her relatives, aren't you?" "Yes, you're not mistaken. Louisa is my mother. She was thrilled to tell me of your arrival and even asked me to welcome you properly. My name is Elizabeth, but my friends call me Eliza." Zanina hesitated. From previous conversations, she was sure that Aunt Louisa had no children. Yet, she extended her hand as a sign of goodwill. "It's a pleasure to meet you," she said. After a brief handshake, Zanina added, "I had no idea Aunt Louisa had a daughter." "Well, she has an adopted daughter," Eliza replied with a smirk. "The one standing before you. My mother never mentioned." "Your mother? Sarah?" Eliza interrupted. "I don't know mother, nor do I live in this house. Louisa insists I stay in England to find a wealthy husband, and I play the obedient daughter in return for her endless financial support." As soon as Eliza finished speaking, she and her friends burst into laughter. Their mocking tone made Zanina uneasy. "I think you're all quite rude," Zanina finally remarked. Eliza stopped laughing at the unexpected comment, but didn't seem particularly offended. "I apologize for my impoliteness," she said with a forced smile. "Let's start over. My name is Eliza, and I am Louisa's daughter." Zanina considered walking away, but ultimately decided to give Eliza another chance, if only out of respect for her aunt. "My name is Zanina," she introduced herself. However, Eliza's momentary politeness quickly faded. Instead of continuing their conversation, she turned her back to Zanina and began whispering and laughing with her friends, mocking her openly. Ignoring their childish behavior, Zanina grew concerned. Eva was nowhere in sight. Just then, she heard someone call out the name Josephine. Turning around, she saw Aunt Louisa approaching her with a warm smile. "My dear Josephine, how are you, sweet girl?" Louisa exclaimed, embracing her affectionately. "Come, let me introduce you to my nephew, James." "Aunt Louisa, I can't find Eva," Zanina interrupted. "She's missing." "She's inside one of the rooms, talking with James," Louisa reassured her. "A rather curious coincidence, but I'd wager they already know each other." "Go on, meet him as well. Unfortunately, I can't accompany you just yet. I have guests to attend to. But as soon as I get the chance, I'll come find you both." "All right, Aunt Louisa," Zanina replied, though she was slightly irritated at once again being called Josephine. Still, she let it go and made her way toward the room her aunt had pointed out.